ascending movement, it it will not happen because everyone around you will do this. It is happen if it's happening within you. If you're listening to this, then you have to forge it. You have to go for it. It's not waiting for something. You're The new earth is being co-created through all of us who are walking this path. That's for me the most important message. And it's not 8 billion souls doing this and going there. And that's the nature of playground of reality we are in. It's a big diversity, and it's coming to an end. And now it's just an invitation for right now a smaller number of souls that are going with this. Hopefully they will create some rippling effects, some tidal waves for others to follow. But yeah, that's not a collective movement, I would say. This sense of being held by the universe, so being embraced by the cosmos. At least that's my initial interpretation of that energy field. So that pure field of acceptance of recognizing that you are seen, loved, cherished by the universe, by the cosmos. Planet, as the living being, is ascending, meaning that the planet is changing its experience, its complete vibratory rate from that 3D, the more dense, outwardly, materially oriented, to a next layer of lightness. Let's call it like this. And that, I feel, is the biggest adventure of all of our lifetimes, because we are here, every one of us, supposedly invited to go through that individual ascension journey. But as we are doing this together with the planet, it's not about just us awakening to the nature of our individual souls, but also changing the collective field of the playground where our souls experience this life.
So, hello everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Universe Through You podcast. I am your host, Vimal. And for this first episode, we have a very special guest. And his name is Miha, who has been a dear friend for a very long time. And whenever we have had conversations, it has been quite deep and it was energetically transformative. And Miha comes with a lot of multidimensional, higher perspectives and experiences, which he will no doubt share in this podcast. And he also runs a spiritual work called Cosmic Embrace, which I felt always represents the true meaning, the true work, Miha represents. So welcome Miha to this podcast.
Hi. Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. Or I'm really happy to see the culmination of our meetings now coming in this format. And yeah, just excited to be here with you and share whatever wants to come through us today.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good. So, why don't you begin with sharing a little bit about your background? What's with this name, Miha, and how did the cosmic embrace came into fruition?
Okay, sure. So yeah, with cosmic embrace, if I start from my perspective, I first describe it as the feeling. So I guess most of the viewers can imagine this sense of being held by the universe, so being embraced by the cosmos. At least that's my initial interpretation of that energy field. So that pure field of acceptance of recognizing that you are seen, loved, cherished by the universe, by the cosmos. So that's how the name transpired. But I'm working under this, let's call it brand, for 2.5 years now. So it's a relatively new concept, which I am discovering and sharing. I'm sharing my work under this name, as I said, in the last couple of years. Um, You were asking me about the name. So Miha was the name that was given to me at birth. But somehow during my journey, during my journey, I was mostly called and recognized by a nickname. It started in my early teenage years, and it went late into my spiritual awakening. So since the age of, let's say, 10 to 30, most of the people wouldn't call me Miha. But I felt to reclaim this name then during the journey, which was kind of a coming back into who I am. No, it's not added here because the Zoom doesn't support emojis, but I call or introduce myself usually as Miha tree, and that
Yeah.
tree is an emoji. Maybe. I don't know if the camera can see this. I have here one engraved in the pot. Yeah, it's kind of
Yes.
works, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Miha tree.
Like,
So Miha tree, I feel describes a little bit of my journey. So as I told you, very human life experiences, and the name I was given at birth, and tree as the field of consciousness. With trees, I'm here referring to a tree consciousness, and as you can see, partially we are sitting in the forest sanctuary. So it's a building made out of trees. I'm living in the forest for the last 9 years. So trees, let's call it a bridge to my soul identity, if I can call it like this, to my soul essence. So it's a conduit for all of the energies to come down. So that's how Miha tree is here as an emissary of cosmic embrace. Let's call it like this.
wow. Yeah. That sounds beautiful, actually. I was reading actually one of your article where you were speaking. Uh, Miha was born into the human flesh and bones instead of being a tree. Maybe you were one of them, and it is a different perspective for me to receive now. It's as a conduit for the higher dimensional experience to land on this earth, and you are being a bridge, let's say, of that.
Yeah, that's what you mentioned. I kind of would just briefly share this experience of, let's say, connecting or exchanging with the trees. That came early on when I was on my spiritual journey, when I was more drawn to shamanism. So how you can exchange souls with a tree, So I like that exercise. I've been doing this on my own many times. So where I let my consciousness to be taken on or exchanged by a tree for a certain degree. And yeah, I mean, it's really beautiful state of being. But there is such an advantage, at least for me, of being a human because you can walk, like the trees are bridges wherever they are as elemental beings. But we as humans have that, so much possibility to explore, experience, and get our adventures going in this world. So, I kind of I'm integrating that element of trees as elemental beings in my human beingness, but I'm very happy to be in human body and flesh at this time. Just to be honest about this.
Yeah, well, I can see that. Um, and let's get right into it. And one of the things I really wanted to discuss in this episode is planetary ascension, which you speak quite a bit in your articles, videos, and everything. So, what is your viewpoint about? I uh, I think many of our viewers would be like new to this concept even. So maybe we can simplify it around what is planetary ascension. What do you see is happening in our world?
Yeah. Okay, so just to share at the beginning, these are my explorations that I'm happy to share, but they're mine and they're mine perspectives. So that's of course the invitation for every viewer to just see what resonates with them, what reflects, but then to work with it if anything comes around. So yeah, when you mentioned the planetary ascension, or I would kind of almost like to start with individual ascension and then scope it to the bigger picture. Let's call it like this. So with individual ascension, I simply see it as the change of focus within one's being. We are right now predominantly a physical beings having this, let's call it a human experience, which is most of the times described as 3D Earth, 3D human beings. So at some point, there happens a change, a shift of perspective within one's own being, within one's own soul, where the experience is not so much guided as the me versus that environment, so interacting with the outer environment, but people start to awaken to the nature of them as the soul, as the spiritual beings, let's say.
So, dear viewers, if you resonate with what is being shared here, consider subscribing to this channel, which would help the content of this channel as well as the invaluable information shared by the guests to reach a wider audience, as YouTube would really promote it. So, enjoy the rest of the show, and we would really like to hear from you as well. So, reach out either through the website which is being shared below, or simply put a comment. And thank you once again.
So, of course, this is a process. This doesn't happen overnight. Everyone would know. But at some point, the internal focus changes so much so that whilst before the most of the consciousness, let's say, was in this container of a limited human being, now it comes into the next plane of existence, into the next octave of reality. So let's call it like this. So you enter the soul realm. What is the soul realm? So you can say it's a next, it's from fourth, fifth, and sixth density, where, in my eyes, just when a being truly conscious, truly anchors within the 6D consciousness, then you can say it reached that aspect of unity consciousness, it ascended to the soul. But that's only a tiny fragment of it, you know. From the soul, you can still ascend to the outer soul, to the there are different terms. So the most common that the spirituality use, so you come from the soul to the outer soul, and then to a Godhead, to Reishi fields. Sorry, in between our avatar and then our Reishi fields. I just want to say that journey of ascension is a continuous iteration of you as the being, or changing a focus of how do you experience of yourself. And that's kind of a journey, an individual beings around. So now you kind of use this analogy and say planet as the living being is ascending, meaning that the planet is changing its experience, its complete vibratory rate from that 3D, the more dense, outwardly materially oriented, to a next layer of lightness. Let's call it like this. And that, I feel, is the biggest adventure of all of our lifetimes, because we are here, every one of us, supposedly invited to go through that individual ascension journey. But as we are doing this together with the planet, it's not about just us awakening to the nature of our individual souls, but also changing the collective field of the playground where our souls experience this life. Yeah, it was kind of a conceptual. I would like to touch what does it mean in down-to-earth way, but just to check in also with you, where we are, what came forth so far.
I was having this exploration question. If this is a wider phenomenon which is happening around the planet, and many people are awakening to their true nature and following the soul and coming into this place of true self, let's say, and why is so much of humanity disconnected from this natural movement which is happening, you know? So this was my exploration, and my question came from that place. Why is this not hugely recognized in our world at this time by the collective humanity, let's say?
Yeah. Well, if I would have an answer to this question, then probably the work and the framework of cosmic embrace will be much different. So it's a good question. Like one of the perspectives that I came to realize is that maybe it seems like most of the people are disconnected and don't have a conscious awareness about the process, but nevertheless they're there within it. They're maybe just not reached a state where they can perceive themselves as the soul in this human experience. So their human life is still filtered through all of the inner constrictions they might have, but they are partially guided with that evolution already. So that I would say is one part of the answer, and the other part, which I didn't touch, or like I feel it's not so much of my calling, is what all is blocking it and distracting this. So we need to be aware that there is a huge energy invested in the old construct, either by people subconsciously projecting their energy into the old 3D system, or by the higher energies that are keeping it all in place. So it's not just a smooth transition, like okay, a common agreement, let's do this. I said it's a process. So the equilibrium, maybe by all of those that are perceiving and are in this ascension movement, feels like nothing is happening on the outside, but I would say it's not true. A lot is happening. A lot is happening. But it would also be my heartfelt wish that more of the people would perceive it, or that it would be more widely talked about, which is not the case, and I just have to accept it.
So yeah, I was just saying is, even though people might not recognize at the plane of the mind that this is happening, that they are energetically affected, impacted in some way, by this awakening movement of consciousness. Because of course we are all interconnected with the universe and the wider movement as well. And one of the things I think we also have wrote about this is the survival consciousness. We are so much identified with this body, the identity, the form, the roles that we play in society, and our orientation in life is, oriented in that way, that how to make ends meet in this plane of consciousness here, and how to be in that role. Then we don't consciously see there is an awakening movement, a soul consciousness, and there is a shift in orientation to finding who and what we truly are beyond the roles and the identity that we play. So I think, and of course, there is a lot of energies that are around, which seems to prey upon this blind spot of humanity at this time. That's how I see it within myself and also in others.
Yeah, I mean, I can very much empathize with you. I guess you called it survival consciousness, how this guides and parts and elements of one's individual journey. But what I guess is the key here, that's how our society, the mainstream life, is oriented towards. So it's actually based on that meeting the ends at the end of the month, at the end of the week, however you call it. But yeah, just to give an example from a bigger picture of let's say a collective movement of the soul, not of the souls, but of the planet. So one of the common misperceptions that I came across is that everyone is ascending. I don't see this as the case. So I don't see now like 7-8 billion people will recognize that's happening and all of the souls will ascend. I don't even know if that's ideally should happen, but as things are right now, I definitely don't see this happening. So there are many souls that are part of this reality that are not part on the individual level of that ascension movement. So they will simply be here for as long as the 3D experience is held in place. And I would say they are gaining a lot from it, even though this will supposedly and highly likely in my eyes end. But still, you have a great number of souls that are coming here for different experience, not the one of ascending with the planet and within themselves. So when the reality starts breaking more and more, yeah, I was writing that that souls will be withdrawn from this planetary reality. Hopefully, there will be a lot of assistance from the ether, angelic realm, or some guides drawing closer, and that souls will be dispatched elsewhere. So that's the key message also for me of that ascending movement. It it will not happen because everyone around you will do this. It is happen if it's happening within you. If you're listening to this, then you have to forge it. You have to go for it. It's not waiting for something. You're The new earth is being co-created through all of us who are walking this path. That's for me the most important message. And it's not 8 billion souls doing this and going there. And that's the nature of playground of reality we are in. It's a big diversity, and it's coming to an end. And now it's just an invitation for right now a smaller number of souls that are going with this. Hopefully they will create some rippling effects, some tidal waves for others to follow. But yeah, that's not a collective movement, I would say.
I was also quite interested in what you said in the beginning. The feeling of the complete self acceptance being held by the universe in its embrace. And this is something that I feel, whenever I sit on top of a mountain here or look at the ocean and feel the energy, it's like being dissolving into the state of embrace, held by the universe. So I sometimes doubt what is that? Who is embracing that? Is this the universe? Is this my guides? Is this the spirit guides or the higher dimensions, the star being nations? I don't know, but I bathe in that feeling. So that's all I I know about it. So what comes through you in that embrace, and how do you see that?
Just a short question for you. If you would know what you are embraced with or by, would it change anything for you?
In a feeling sense, I don't think it would change anything. The feelings would remain. You know, might be the mind would have some answers around it, but the feeling is one of a complete trust and surrendering into that wider energy, into the cosmic energy, and being held and supported by that energy, whatever experiences I might have.
Yes. Thank you for this reflection. I feel it's truly important to share this first because I'm also quite oftentimes, because of my work, faced with these questions from people trying to figure out who is embracing them, who is guiding them, all of this. I mean, if mind has this inquiry, it will eventually come to it. So I don't want to ditch it. But it is oftentimes in a way of truly surrendering into this feeling and then working with it, being in it. So yeah, that's what I truly want to point out. But the way how I came to the feeling of cosmic embrace, who is at the end of it, I call it source or pure presence. So that's for me the ultimate embrace.
Yeah. Which is not even a somebody, an identity embracing you, but you are feeling you are being where the self, the identity is dissolving into it. So that's more how I would put it. Dissolving into the source.
Yeah,
Oftentimes,
from a human perspective. Sorry, go on.
no, oftentimes what really stops is, so this is my experience around it. If I am figuring out life at just the level of the mind, through choices and confusion and all of that, I immediately have some tightnesses around my body whenever I'm engaging with people, or in going around my day with work and all of that. Then it is then about working through that tightness is what I'm feeling and ejecting those energies which doesn't actually belong in my field and letting that go. In which case, I am able to touch more of that source presence within my consciousness. So many of my daily orientation is in that way, is to see where I am at in that particular day in a feeling sense, and coming more into that sense of surrendering into that flow state.
Yeah, you mentioned the flow state, or mentioned you actually came to the flow state as the. To me, the flow state is somehow the consequence of first merging with that source field, and then, yeah, creating enough internal space for it to land in your human beingness, let's say, then it creates a flow state. So I would actually like to elaborate still to that first question, who or what is contained
Please.
within that
Yeah.
cosmic embrace. But yeah, I'm building upon your reflections. So you described. I invite people to listen again if they didn't fully get. You describe this. How do you surrender into it? Eject what's on the way, because when you surrender, you might feel different blockages, and then the flow emerging from it. So I've I work, sat, and explored this cosmic embrace even before I knew and call it cosmic embrace. So these different flows emerging from that field of presence, whatever it was being held. Right now, I guess you cannot fully see, but maybe I can share at some point, because we've created this new cosmic embrace logo, where is the earth embraced by different beings, and we are all holding hands. It's not just human beings. So that's a little bit a reflection of different energies coming through cosmic embrace. But just to iterate what I've experienced, so from that source field, first would be a higher angelic fields. Personally, I had a connection with energy called Elohim. Even though I know Elohim also had its fallen lineage, and it's not just like that white angelic light that someone would imagine. In these higher angelic lines, you already have falls and distortions, but you have different angelic families. Let's call it like this: seraphim, through which the energy is streaming, cascading down from the source. And of course, it's a realm that is mostly blocked from my conscious awareness. In deep meditations, I can't do it. But that's where initial considerations, relocations are happening, and then that energy starts to cascade in speaking of our reality towards what we can start to call a galaxy and cosmic frequencies. So there you have, I guess you mentioned star being nations. So different iterations of this consciousness taking place as the beings. It's usually a collective being, civilizations that have shaped over the eons and have particular experiences, particular wisdom, particular focus of their explorations. So currently, I feel a lot of what Cosmic Embrace is focused upon is a sense of relocating, reconciliating, or just getting to know these different cosmic frequencies, which you can call a star being nations. And then from that realm, the consciousness or the flow cascades even deeper down, and it's starting to reach that our solar system, and through the energy of the sun, you have now a lot of these solar infusions coming through it. But you can see where it's actually coming. It's coming from the source to all of this higher dimensional consciousness, and then it's through the sun enters our solar system. So then you have here again more of our planetary realm starting to be included and brought in. Of course, what I found of planet Earth, that there is so much of the elemental beauty, so much of Devic consciousness here. So yeah, that's more coming through my way of being. I'm not bringing so much through the sessions when I work with people, but also you see the elemental beings, the trees everywhere around me. So you have that whole elemental kingdom that is basking in these energies or creating that sense of embrace, you know. Um, and at the end, it kind of starts to crystallize and come down to our
Mm.
3D human experience. So that's in a nutshell a mix of all of these different interplays. And yeah, I mean what I already mentioned, but just to give once more, for me the bridge for all of it is tree consciousness. That's the container, you know. If people are now listening and wondering or feeling some energy, what this might be, I would say simply go out after this and hug a tree or lean into it, whatever. You know, that will help that exchange, that will help the energies land beyond the mind. And then the mind, if it wants to explore, it will go and find the reflections. But yeah, the trees as the consciousness, not just as the elemental beingness, the consciousness behind trees is here to create this bridge, is here to establish a playground for these explorations, at least in my experience.
Yeah, yeah. I think uh, just as trees are, there are many others like the mountains or the ocean, which can also for me the ocean is anchoring that sense of source presence, consciousness, and also this question has been a constant. It's a rhetorical question. It's an exploration rather than something that's seeking an answer. Is that okay? All of this higher dimensional flows and consciousness is there. But so what? How is that going to change my life? How is that going to create something in my life? And how I'm going to express that into this world. So like few days ago I was sitting on this mountain and looking at the ocean and the sun was setting and I was just feeling into certain exploration I was having, and I was into creating some things, and I could feel and see the mind interfering in the creative process. And I guess this is how we are deeply conditioned from birth to create through the level of the mind, through analyzing, testing, and all of these things. And this was the old conditioned things coming through the level of the mind. So I was just working to soften what was happening in the solar plexus, and when it opened up, and I'm seeing this beautiful synchronicity where there are like people walking from below the mountain up, and there are few people who are coming from the top of the mountain. They are trying to meet each other, and the few people who were on top of the mountain asked me, Is there a direction to reach the people down?" So immediately, okay, the answer, this was my inquiry. It was an answer to my inquiry. The creation happens from here. This is the old way of creating from the mind. That doesn't work anymore if you are really following the soul. And the creation has to come from here, and it has to meet the physical realm, and then and create and express from that place. And then I found the answer. If when you are traveling and journeying at the level of the soul, if you have put your feet on two boats where you're trying to create from the old way and not from this way, and it might create conflict. So you have to choose one over the other at some point. So that was my answer. So for me, the guidance mechanism comes through mostly as signs and synchronicities, which lands as a feeling, knowing.
Yeah, I really appreciate how you are reading the flow. I mean, now it's one example, but I've obviously heard you at some other occasions. This with how the energy is then meeting the group, you know. So from top of the mountain down, that story. But that I feel is really the key. You asked the question, how would you, how can these higher dimensional energies assist, or what is the use of them in your human life, so to say? And I would say, if you experience at least once yourself in it, with it, being part of it, then in my eyes, like most of the survival inquiries that you have in your human life doesn't make sense. I mean, they are still real, so they are not overridden. But what guides you, what motivates you, it's like, whoa, how can I be part of this? At least that's my experience, like, of course, you have to be part of the human journey, and engage with all. That's where the energy eventually comes from and is transformed. But it's like, yeah, maybe you said it, but you become disengaged, at least internally, from all of the drama and what's happening out there. And you said, oh, what's really real for me? What's really real for me?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that comes, I'm not sure if that's relevant, but I'm going to share anyway, is that when you engage, you have this connections and you have this empathic ability, and when you engage with with the people, and you still have to embrace the human aspect as well, because otherwise, I tend to get disconnected, from this human aspect and go into this place, or for this can happen to many people who are in the awakening journey, I suppose, or you are in the human experience and doesn't have an inkling of what is really guiding you, motivating you. So when you engage with the world, how not to lose this source presence consciousness within, and not get lost in this drama of life, and which is a tough challenge for, I suppose, for many people who are listening to this podcast as well. How to maintain the balance between these two aspects.
Yeah, that's the alchemy, isn't it? As you were sharing that story from Paulo Coelho, I guess The Alchemist was the title of the book. So the character is being taught exactly this, or there are some exercises. So how at some point let's say he's being lost in that soul consciousness and disconnected from the outer world, or then vice versa, being lost in the outer world and disconnected from it. Anyhow, just felt to mention the book of Coelho. I like that one and some others.
Yeah.
But to bring one element and maybe a little bit de-energize it, because you mentioned in previous inquiries, to me, what helps me to connect is actually the mind.
Mm.
But not mind in a sense of a lower mind, when, okay, I will take a plan and analyze. So the mind, how I would call it, not the Western mind, how we are being taught, indoctrinated through our educational system, but the mind as the higher mind is also an element of the soul consciousness for me. So with that sense of alchemy and the energy that I'm starting to kind of feel coming through is that of Lemurian consciousness, which I mean, I've been asking this. Lemurians, how I experienced them, were telepathic, so they didn't use that complex language as we are now, but they were still communicating. So it's a transfer of thoughts that happens, and some people see it as images, some people see it as feelings, as the combination, but there is still that kind of a mind engaged in it, and at least that's how I am interpreting and connecting also the higher dimensional realm, not through that literal, like a mind that narrates, the whole stories, but when all is silence down, I kind of keep making sure, there is a connection to the app which comes through some telepathical exchange, let's say, and I'm engaged with you or with tree, with whatever is here. So that is about being a bridge, and then as you are in a bridge, then you start to alchemize this connection. So there is not an answer how not to get lost in one or another. I feel it's a necessary part of the journey. That's how you navigate, and then kind of keep steering your own direction. So from a bigger picture, also what we spoke before, human souls being focused on 3D, you can say lost in 3D, that's part of their journey. That's part of their soul exploration, for whichever reason, and there will come a time where they will probably balance it in the other way. So yeah, just not to
I
judge
mean,
this experience.
this is something that I have received from you many times before. Is the allowing oneself to get lost and make mistakes, and there is no need for any kind of judgments in that as well, which immediately frees the being from any rigidity around the mind. Let's say. So I'm grateful for you bringing that up again in this conversation.
Mm. Yeah, and just two sentences to bring to that initial inquiry when you spoke about the planetary ascension. What I really like to point out is that right now we are in the training ground for what happens after the ascension. So there is no need to make it right. Some people get lost in trying to be spiritually perfect, so to say. But there will be a time for this. Right now, it's about being real, being honest, and that is kind of then the main navigation in this process, at least from my experience so far.
Wow. Is the sense of spiritual identity, which many awakening people and soul journeying people would undoubtedly will experience in their journey, is that you ditch one identity, you work through one identity, and then suddenly take on another identity called the spiritual identity, which also actually blocks the true sense of soul's presence within and the ability to flow through life, because you are suddenly making spiritual judgments on life. So I think the key is around, especially in this, is the sense of sovereignty, is reclaiming the self sense of sovereignty over one's life, the ability to navigate one's soul choices without distorted influence. And that is the influence of spiritual images in one's mind, one's consciousness, and it is important to let that go through one's own explorations. So my question was, how have you experienced, how much have you experienced this, and what was the key for you to letting go of these spiritual identities? I guess you have a different name for it, but I felt to ask.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the question. I'm just contemplating the synchronicity because as you were asking this question, I was listening to you through speaker, but then it stopped working. So now I had to change to the computer speaker, which is just here. But maybe that outer speaker, which is fancy, nice, like a Bluetooth connection, represents an aspect of that spiritual identity that is whispering from a distance. But then you kind of have to bring it here and this real and this insight. So I would say in forming a spiritual identity, it a lot depends upon one's own blueprint and also like the karmic influences. So for me, I have a lot of catalytic energy and something that wants to be brought through, also challenged, but brought through me in expression, in work. So and now we touch that kind of a sense of bigger explorations of an energy field and what's there, but it means that in the past, wherever I could gain an element of truth, I would kind of almost get absorbed in a particular material, particular framework, particular being, person in that way. I've always maintained a level of inner sovereignty, but due to my focus, I could easily misplace quite some of my soul consciousness into whatever was out there. And this would then form a sense of polarity with it. And as long as any kind of spiritual identity was active within me, it will be kept in place. So you said, you asked me, how did I let go or dissolve of it? If I share from my personal process, the key for me was the sense of self-worth, maybe, like, let's say like this, because from my human self, I brought myself in the environment where all of these things that we are talking about, that was nonsense, and so this didn't give me any meaning, worth, in last 10 years of my journey and being here in society out there. Not that I was looking for that meaning, but it's the reflections that you are getting, you're that I wasn't even called stupid, because I was just kind of a cast out. I was just cast out. So, but this then internally in my human system created that sense of, oof, I'm doing something wrong, and I had to progressively build this trust, which came just through me, not someone saying, hey, you're doing right. Of course you get every few and then reflections, and then you do some sessions and someone speak back to you, but it was that constant, like, no one is going, that was that realization, no one is going to tell me eventually that I'm doing this right. And if they will, it's because they have a sense of identity or lack of self-worth, and they see something in me that I reflect. So it was really coming to that realization of, yeah, whatever I do, share, engage with, needs to feel real for me in the moment. And of course, I've been working and I'm still through some of the human distortions. So I might be doing something that feels right for me right now. But in 1 year, I will look back and say, oh, look, it's been from a point of identity, but it's unraveling. I know the direction. I know the field I'm sitting with. There is an approximation of where the mission is going, So I've so much merged myself with this higher dimensional field that's what will eventually pull me, wherever the journey in the 3D in the human life takes from. So it was really this building of trust to the field that I call now cosmic embrace, what I would still bring forth.
Okay, so the question that really comes through me at this time, what you shared is, so we were speaking about the planetary ascension. So how are these star being nations or higher dimensional team guidance assisting in that process in one's own individual journey of ascension as well as the collective earth level and planetary ascension? How is that assisting and what do you see of it?
Okay. Yeah. Um, First thing that comes individually, how they assist individually, and this I will share just from experiences I've had with some of people coming through my work. When people recognize or the breach is being held, and they strongly resonate with a particular star being frequency, Orions, Arcturians, and you can reflect this to them. Not directly, you are an Arcturian. I don't identify souls with this, but there is this energy that you're bringing forth. I mean, they come with their inquiry, but when they recognize this as their soul family, that's for them a cosmic embrace. That's a homecoming. So I would say individually, like, no, if we are speaking of energies in the ether of that collective star being nations, they're here holding a space for the souls that are remembering that they are part of it. I would say there is no greater feeling than this for an individual being when it's their time to lean into it, to feel with it. Then, of course, individuals take different routes from there. Some just have a wish, okay, let me live this here, that realm, and go there. Or, it's the beginning of the journey. What is my mission? And they start bringing their energy forward. So that's individually. Um, and yeah, maybe just to say, I personally don't identify or connect strongly with any of those. I had experiences being in different of these constellations, so I'm forming the bridges, but I don't consider any of this as my home family. How do I call this? Um, but how that's what I wish to say. How can they speak into a collective journey right now? Is that they are resonating their experiences, and this can be just like you were describing before this. You go to the mountain and you lean back and you feel this cosmic embrace, you know. It can be that their energy holding a field which we can call light. So they are streaming the light for a light workers, for people that are opening, you know. So they are creating that pockets of higher dimensional energies for people to not just experience it. That's one way, but then to also create with it, to work with it. So I would say that's on a bigger level how they are working or assisting this. And third thing to mention is like they're also working their own stories, their own background through it. I don't I do I idealize idolize, sorry, I don't idolize these frequencies, you know, because I know they also have lessons to learn or had in the past that they came through here. So I've always described Earth as the very diverse playground where you have representatives of different of these star being nations. And a part of that ascension journey is to, I would say, to relearn how we can all work together, which is actually a reconciliation among those star being nations among themselves. So through their journey of kind of a harmonizing with other parts of, let's call it galactic family, they are also then opening a pathways for us as humans to coexist in a more coherent way. I see here this is a shared journey. So either we as humans can resonate this back to those star-being nations, or they're holding that fields down to us. So that's a co-created journey. So I feel we kind of now just open the explorations, and as we tapped into the dynamics between the star-being nations, the battery is running out, which is an interesting synchronicity of the energy is needing to recharge or maybe reconcile what still wants to come true or what wants to be shared. But I feel it's been a very potent exploration so far, uh, holding a lot of different directions. So yeah, what can I share? Just thank you for now for opening this space. I'm good to just close here, sit with this, and see how it transpires. And hopefully it inspires.
Thank you, Miha, so much for your experiences of coming to this podcast. And we will have to do this again, a lot into different topics in the next episode. So, once again, thank you for bringing your energies to bear in this episode. Much appreciated.
Hmm. Thanks for the invitation.